Hello, I hope you guys are all having a good one. Today's video, I'm going to be covering RizomUV. So first, to preface, I just want to state that, one, this is not like a complete coverage of Rizom, okay? So I'm not going to be covering some stuff like trim sheeting and groups and some more complex stuff. This is more like a general basic, you gotta quickly learn how to figure out the program and get, I guess, accustomed with the basic things. Of course, there are videos that you can go and watch for that. Rizom themselves are actually uploading a lot of tutorials in regards to those sorts of things, so feel free to go and, if there's anything that you think I haven't covered and stuff that you do want to learn, just go check up the Rizom YouTube channel. But otherwise, yeah, I'm hoping by the end of this you will know the basics of Rizom, at least the things that I use anyway in my usage with it and stuff like that. I guess the overall key things that I value Rizom over other UVing tools. So first and foremost, I do also want to preface that I do not use the default controls and stuff like that in settings. So I will go over the things that I changed, and it's up to you whether you want to also switch. I find I get better control and usage with these, but that may differ for you. So first and foremost, under the viewport interaction, I've changed it from I think by default it is just RizomUV. This is fine and all. I am personally a Maya user and stuff like that, so I personally prefer the Maya changes and stuff like that. There's a couple minor changes, but I think overall, I just in general prefer Maya in that result. So yeah, the one other thing that I have changed, and this is personal preference, is I've also changed the hotkeys for the vertex, edge, polygon, and island group mode. So by default, this is F1, F2, F3, and F4. All I've done is I've swapped this from the function keys to just the number keys. Personally, I'm not too sure why it's function. Some keyboards don't have function. Mine does, of course. But also with that, I ultimately just changed it because it's easy to press. So I find that way more valuable. But then again, maybe you prefer function, and maybe it's easy enough for you to select. But when I'm mindlessly going and selecting things, as I go along, I find it easy to just go and utilize that. So yeah. Those are the main changes that I've made. Of course, I've got a couple different colors and stuff like that from customization, but that's super minor and is not going to impact stuff like that. So don't worry about anything else. First, I'll go into the selection methods, right? Selection is probably going to be your most important tool when it comes to Rizom, because you need to select things in order to add cuts and stuff like that. So you can access them, over here in the side toolbar. So you've got, the vertex select, next the edge select. So I think this maybe differs on Rizom. This is why I like if I double click here, I get this loop. I can't remember, but for example, Rizom may interact differently. So yeah, there's a couple of things there which is why I changed. You've also got the face select. I personally do not use face select or vertex select really at all. I mainly only stick to edge, and as I will cover next, the island mode. So island mode will select whole islands, and of course, because this is its own object, it's all currently one island. Because personally, when importing, I always import via load as opposed to load with UVs. There's a couple minor reasons as to it, and I would recommend it, the load as opposed to load with UVs. If you have already started UVing an object, then of course load with UVs makes a heap of sense. But there's two main pros as to why I choose load. One, you've got yourself a clean slate, so you're not having to weld any extra edges that you've accidentally added, or well, not accidentally, but may have come default with the object when you export it out of something like Blender or Maya. Secondly, a tool that I may cover further later into this video, but you've also got auto. And what this auto will do is as you start adding cuts and stuff like that, so if I were to quickly give an example cut, we can go into the separate thing, so it will hide things as we go along. So yeah, as you can see here, I'm adding cuts and whatnot, and we're starting to get like things hidden away, and that helps occasionally. So that's something that I may go back into further later into this, but for now, that's just a basic example of something that can be pretty helpful. But yeah, so let's go next into, let me actually Control-Z some of these so I don't have them. Sweet. So that's how you use the selection tools. Once again, I do personally prefer the 1, 2, 3, and 4, which I've switched, but by default it is the function keys. Next, I'm going to cover, I guess, I'll see if I can move along here as we go along. So first, you've got, you can set up different maps and stuff like that. And these are your UV sets. So sometimes it can be worth, sometimes, like, you don't need to do this, but if you know, hey, this model is going to be 2K, for example, you can change it to 2K. And so if you're using particular texel densities, then that's how you're going to achieve that particular texel density, because of course it's going to be, your texel density is going to change based off of your map resolution. But yeah, I don't change this too much because I'm generally not sticking too close to a target texel density. But if you are, that's an important feature there. Next, we're going to go into seams. And so this is the same as every other program, really. You cut seams, and that's going to split up the different UVs. So for example, if I select this, and then with at least the Maya controls, you hold Shift and double click again, that's going to select these, for example. You can add a cut like that. And so this is your cut tool. Looks like a little blade, and it's cutting between two things. And alternatively, you can go and press this tool, which is the weld tool. That's going to weld in. What welding does is that when you've got a seam, it just connects the two islands and removes the seam. The alternative to this, and the one big powerful thing I find with Rizom, is pretty much the vast majority things are keybind. So super easy. You can press C for a cut and W for weld, which you can see there. But you may also see some random colors coming up now. This is your distortion here, which I have at the bottom, although this can be changed. Distortion is just showing you which things have large, stretching. So yeah, of course this is not cut, so you're going to get some weird distortion. So yeah, moving along, I'm going to add some quick cuts and move into the next thing. So going into some quick cuts and stuff, as you can see, I've added a couple. It's not the most optimized in terms of cuts and stuff like that, but it's a decent enough basis. One thing you'll see here is when I'm adding a loop here, and I'm selecting the loop, you'll see this purple line. This may be a different color for you, but you'll see this purple line that's going around and going along here. One really cool thing about Rizom as well is your edge loops get stopped by seams and stuff like that, because generally you're not going to want it to go further. If these seams were not here, this edge select will go from there all the way around, all the way through, as it would with most software and stuff. But the one of the also really big things about Rizom is it gets stopped. There are a couple add-ons and stuff you can get for Blender that also does that, but that's pretty helpful there. And this will take me into the next segment, unfolding. So, or unwrapping. And you're going to find this over here with the unfold, the big U. And so what we can do here is I'm just going to select everything. Of course, there's going to be some items here that are not going to be, we're not going to want. So I'll just deselect that. because I haven't added any cuts to that. So you can go and press this unfold button there, and you'll see everything gets unfolded. The alternative to pressing this button is U. So once again, very, very simple, just reiterating. You've got to add a cut, C to add a cut, sorry, W to add a weld, and you've got U to add, unfold. Very, very simple, some nice keybinds, and they'll speed you up. Next, you have optimize. So if you want to optimize something, you can, once again, very easy, just press O. You can even hold O, and it's going to add a heap and heap and heap and heap and heap of iterations, which you'll see it's slightly moving. And, you've got this result, and you may be like, I want this straightened, because generally speaking, you want your UVs to be straightened. How would you approach straightening your UV? There's two approaches that I would recommend. So what I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to quickly move this to give an example. So by moving, you're going to hold space, so the space bar, and middle mouse to move an island. You don't need to select the island as well, so I'm not selecting, I'm just holding space and middle mouse to move these. You can hold space and right mouse button, and what that's going to do is it's going to rotate the island, and you can hold space and left mouse button to scale the island, as you can see. So you can go and have a play around with it. Sometimes it can be a little bit confusing to get started with, but once you start picking it up, it's quite easy. Once again, all pretty much key bindable. So yeah, to get this to straighten, there's a couple ways that you can approach it. And I'll show you the two probably best ways of approaching it. You can, one, press this button, either of these two buttons here. This is what I personally do. So yeah, if I want it to be horizontal, boom, horizontal. And you've got a good result. This works pretty much 99.5% of the time perfectly. When you're in Blender or Maya, for example, you will often pretty much, I think the vast majority of times I run into issues with, straightening, and you'll get some weird interactions and stuff like that. And ultimately, if you're the object is kind of a complex model, then yeah, it may not straighten, and that's when you'll want to run into this next technique. But yeah, you can go horizontal and vertical where needs be. But yeah, to get out of that and like reverse that, you can of course press Ctrl-Z or just re-unwrap it again, and that's gonna bring it back to its natural state where you're gonna have no stretching, but at the same time, it's the edges are of course not straightened. So it's up to you whether you value straightened edges or lack of, I guess, stretching. Next, we'll go into the next part that I'll go into, which is edge constraining. This is something that I have come across pretty recently, but is a bit of a game changer for particular stuff. So if I'm going to quickly double select these edges, one really cool thing you're going to find, unlike default Maya setup, is you can move the edges and stuff like that, and it's not going to impact the rest of the edges that you would usually be selected. If you did that in Maya, you're going to move and mess up the rest of the things. I believe you can change that, but I cannot remember the button off the top of my head. But a way of straightening this manually, which I'll cover, is under this Unwrap. You're going to go here, and you can find Constrain Edges. So if you constrain it horizontally, because let's just say I want it to be completely horizontal, I can click that, and you'll see the colors change. Once again, I'll do this, and we're going to go and constrain horizontally. From here, we can select the UV shell and press U to unwrap. Boom. We've got a nice and straightened thing. We're not even relying on the straightener. So if you're running into issues with the straightener here, you can do this and you're going to run into no issues. Unless, the only real reason that this wouldn't work is if, it's not an object that really is going to be able to be straightened. right? There's of course some stuff like you're not going to straighten this, okay? This is a completely flat and perfect, shell. There's no reason for me to straighten it, really. So you may be like, well, yes, this is great, but now we've got some weird edges here. Once again, a pretty simple thing. We'll just select these edge loops there, and we'll press the opposite one. So instead of constraining edges horizontally, we're going to constrain them vertically. Boom. You'll see the colors change there. And so once again, select the shell and press U to unwrap, and you'll see that's fixed. And you may get some of these here on the inside, and if you really want to, you can select them as well and constrain them vertically. Maybe select these top ones if you really needed to, and you'll see there it straightens them. So if you really needed to, you can do that for those as well, if you want to be very particular. But this is like you would rarely need to utilize this. There's an occasion that you may, but I find it's pretty sparingly. I usually get perfect results by default with the default stuff. But as you can see here, I can just go and straighten those. Unwrap. Oops, we're going to get some issues. I think I accidentally selected something wrong, but oh well. It's, for the most part, perfectly fine. So yeah, and to remove this, you can just click Unconstrain Edges, and that will unconstrain them and remove that where need be. So yeah, that's a great way of straightening edges and shows why Rizom is pretty damn powerful. I'm not too sure. There may be other programs that can do that, but pretty sparingly. Next, we're going to cover... What are we going to cover next? Let's go... There are projections if you really want to do projections. So, I don't know. There's not too many cases I'd really want to project, but you could project, for example, like that. Not really the result that I'd want to, but hey, some of you guys need to project, you can press these, and so these will be your planar projections, and you've got your settings here. Next, we're going to cover, I guess, texel density. So you can set a texel density. So by default, we're at 10.24, and you're going to see selected texel density is super high. So if I press this, you're going to get a super small thing. But next, let's just say we want to grab this, so we know that this is the texel density of this object using this, and that's going to use whatever you have selected. And so this hasn't been unwrapped or anything, but then I can go, for example, and apply that, and that's now going to be the same texel density as this original thing, which can be super duper helpful if you're I guess trying to retain a specific texel density, which is nice. Next, I'm going to be covering, I mean, I could say this for pretty much everything about Rizom. There's a lot of very powerful things. So what I'm going to be covering is next the similar tool. Once again, incredibly powerful. And I'm not too sure if I know a single other tool that can do it. So what you're going to see on the edges of my little cauldron here are these two little, I don't know what you call them, little outer sections that hold this ring around. Now, as you can tell, these are effectively the same thing. It's just facing the opposite ways, but that still works perfectly fine for this use case. So what we're going to do here is, instead of having to manually unwrap both of them, you can unwrap one of them and do a really cool operation where it will copy effectively the information on this one to this side, which you can see that you can tell if you've got, I guess, a similar object effectively by pressing this option here. So that's select similar. And as you can see here, because it selects this one, these are treated as the same object. So what I can apply to this, I can also apply to that. So I'll quickly go and zoom into this, and we'll add a couple cuts here. So I'm just going and pressing C to cut. Oops, I must have left some information there. So yeah, this can be kind of helpful if you have, like, for example, this auto mode selected, and then I'm not, I'm going and trying to select inside, then I could, of course, go and do that. That's another easier way instead of having to maneuver your camera. So what I'm going to quickly do is, like, I can select there and select around. We'll probably add some loops around like that. And I'll see if I can get one in the inside. If I can select one of these, select one down there. So I've gone and I've added pretty much the rough UVs that I want there. So I can go and select, I believe you can just select even like a single shell that you've cut. You can then therefore select similar, and then you're going to run into update similar. There is the keybind of like a Alt-C for selecting, but there isn't a keybind by default for update. You can add one yourself if that's what you are after. But here we can go update similar, and what you're going to see there is it updates. I believe it's only updated a portion of that. I'm not too sure why that's the case. Maybe you got to... Oh, did I not add the cuts? Maybe I got to add... Maybe I got to select everything. Maybe I was doing that wrong. Let me update similar and see if that works. Select. I've really mucked this one up. Select, update. Is that going to work? There we go. Okay, so you just got to select everything. I must have missed that. And as you can see there, everything has now been updated, and that saves me a heap of time because, for doing this, the amount of time it takes for me to cut this object is the same amount of time. Well, it would be the same amount of time to cut this. It's now I just cut this, press 2 buttons, and boom, this was now working. If you've got like 10, 20, 30 of the same objects, maybe you've got like bolts or something like that you've modeled. That's where you can start getting some real quick time. So some pretty other cool things is if you, for example, select similar, you can also press this button here, stack similar. So if you wish to stack, you can go and stack them. And so you can see that these are now stacked there, which is really cool. Stacking though, depends on what you're doing. If you're baking, stacking may not be the approach that you want to do. But is pretty damn helpful. And yeah, there's a couple extra things that you may find like in here, which I haven't really covered, so I probably should. There may be some stuff that I haven't really covered in here, but you can access different controls and stuff like that. So instead of having to do these drop downs, you can just press these options and it'll give you a bit more control over them. You do have stuff like, where was it? Auto seams and stuff like that, which I don't like really using. But yeah. Next, we're going to go into packing. So I'm going to quickly pause this video and I will quickly finish unwrapping this section and then I'll run into packing. Awesome. So I've quickly gone and UV this, which is fine. I will update it because of course I know that I will want to split it, but I'll show you sort of the approach there. So what I'm going to quickly do is select all the objects there. I'm just going to press U for unwrap. It's going to unwrap everything. And next we're going to go and pack. So once again, I'll just go select that all, press P for pack. That's going to pack everything. And this is by your settings here. So you've got, like, for example, margin and padding. So by decreasing these to, for example, like 6, you're going to be able to get things a lot closer. So pressing P again will get even better. And then you can see the, I guess, the whole UDIM usage here, which is 34. And so you may be like, oh, damn, 34. Well, one, this is great because you actually know what's going on. You can see, how much wasted space. That means, of course, we're getting approximately, off the top of my head, 66% of it isn't being used. Quote me on that. Maybe my math is wrong. I'm not a mathematician here. Yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff that's not being utilized. So next I'm going to go cover how to approach improving that. So first and foremost, we're going to notice that, we've got a lot of these taking up a lot of space and not really being great. So this is when you'd want to go and straighten some of these. For example, I may even straighten these. And what's going to happen is if you go select everything, press P, you're going to have a great result. If for whatever reason these are unstraightening, right? Hold Shift and then press P. Okay. What that's going to do is, I believe it's this. Which one is it? One of these. There's one of these. I can't quite remember which one it is. Yeah, Shift P. So it's Pack Translate. And so what Shift P is going to do is it's going to retain your settings that you've selected. The reason that this is powerful is, let's just say I hold space and right mouse button, and let's just say I want my shell to be like this, right? Because let's just say, you know, I didn't have these like this, and I wanted to straighten it, and I didn't have it, like, I hadn't straightened the UV, so I wanted to retain this. If I press, for example, P, you'll see it goes in and tries to make the most of the space, which is great because now I'm using as much space as possible. The downside to that is I wanted it to be like this. So by holding Shift and then P, it's going to retain the settings, which is great. But of course I want this to be straight. The next thing, of course, you're going to see, I mean, this is just general stuff, right? Of course, we're only using 42% of the space. How can I optimize this? You know, some of you guys probably don't need me to cover this, but maybe just adding some extra loops, because I value the making the most of the space as opposed to having completely, I guess, less shells. So I'm just going to click Unwrap. You know, I might straighten these objects that I've gone and done, and I'll just quickly pack them. And we're getting odd results. Which one is it? Ah, we've got something here that I seem to have missed. I'll say, I'm like, huh, that's odd results. That should be looking a lot better. Oops. Let me control Unwrap. Then we'll go quickly pack it, and there we go. Much better. This is more what I'm was trying to get at. Now we're using 74% of the space, which means we're effectively double the space. It's working a lot better. I'm not too sure what's going on here. You can see that we're getting some red and blue over here, which means that something's going on over there. I must have accidentally had that selected when straightening. So I can just go and Shift P, and we'll go there. And that actually increased the usage as well, which is actually a win-win. You know, it fixed that issue. So that is a very, very helpful tool of this distortion thing. You know, with things going red and blue, because I possibly would have missed that otherwise, considering I did miss it. Next, I'm going to show pretty much the last two tools that I use quite a lot. There are a lot of other things that I haven't covered, of course, but once again, like, I do just want to reiterate that I'm just covering the tools that I use in my, I guess, daily usage. So there are things that I potentially do use otherwise, but it's like a, you know, once in a blue moon. There's symmetry and stuff that you can also use. I don't use symmetry myself, but there are like a bunch of those other tools that are quite helpful as well. So the last two tools that I'm going to cover is going to be this checkerboard. So what's really cool is Rizom has multiple different default, I guess, what do you call it? Like, I'm not too sure. You know, you can check to see if it's like distorted and stuff like that, like distortion tools with the checkerboard, or you can use grid, for example, if you want colored and numbered, and so you can see if they're facing the right way or not. So as you can see, this is upside down, so maybe you'd want to flip it if you're going to be hand drawing, for example. And you can add your own ones via user, which is of course gone black because I don't have one selected. And so yeah, I personally like the UV, the checkerboard, but some of you guys may prefer grid. So you may see this and go, oh man, I wish I could see more of these because, you know, we're not going to be able to see them because of that. What you can go and do, which one is it? I think it's like under packing, or is it seams? It's one of these. We're going to find which one it is. Here we go. So it's under UV set, and just increasing this texture scaling section here. So by increasing that, you're going to be seeing a lot more, which I can see that this is oddly not the same texel density. Let me go and select that. I'm going to apply that. Yeah, there we go. We can now see, once again, some cool, helpful tools there. So I'll quickly go and pack that. So unfortunately, we have lost a bit of stuff, but now our texel density is the same. So once again, all these little tools that I'm showing are, you know, helpful, and you can sort of see like there when that was kind of helpful. So yeah, increasing this UV repeat, you can see now because I've increased it, you can sort of see a little bit of like distortion occasionally. You can see these sort of being a bit, you know, stretched there with the blue. And yeah, that's pretty much the majority of it. I will show one final thing, and that is going to be, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, so it's going to be under packing. So I believe by selecting this, you'll get the option to. I have locked it. So some of these you'll see blue lock here. That's just because I've locked it because I may use it relatively often, such as the straighten tool. And what you're going to do here is you've got a bunch of, I guess, controls over in the advanced section, such as low, normal, high, higher, and ultra, sorry. So by going like low and one iteration, you know, it'll give you a very, very, very quick, you know, rough placement of your shells. So we actually lost 2% down to 60. And so you'll see by increasing this, you may get better results. So I've gained 2%. This may be better, which it's not. Maybe ultra is better. It takes a little bit longer, as you can see, and I didn't really get any better. So that's pretty, you know, that's pretty much the best you're going to get. Now, next we've got iterations. So what iterations does is it will rerun the operation 32 times. So if I want to, you know, effectively go and get the, like, I'm pretty happy with everything. I want to get the, I guess, the final pack. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to ultra, and I might set it to iterations of 32 or 64 or something like that. Oops. Now, bear in mind, the faster your PC is, the fastest operation is going to be. But this is going to rerun this ultra operation 32 times, and from there, it's going to go and find the best, I guess, use of the space. I think with the, you know, there not being too many objects and stuff like that, there's not too many shells, I do not think I'm going to be able to get it any higher, but we'll give it a run. And occasionally it'll get higher. I mean, this is the, yeah, so it's 62, which means it's the maximum that I'm probably going to be able to get with this without, you know, maybe cutting this and then straightening this, which I don't particularly want to do. But yeah, that's effectively the maximum I'm going to get. But, you know, the more shells and stuff like that there are, the more impact that this is going to ultimately have. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's pretty much everything I would like to cover. If you want to save, you can save here under save or save as. You do not need to press export UVs, you just save it. And the good thing is everything's being saved as an FBX, which means you can go and import it into, you know, Maya, for example, just drag it and drop it. Alternatively, you can go and reopen it again. You know, all of these, you know, FBX, 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 these are my recent ones, for example, and they're all FBXs, which is great. So it means that, you know, there's no having to deal with the whole nother weird saving stuff. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's pretty much everything I want to cover. Go flick a comment down if there's anything else you really want covered, and if I do know how to use that system, then I'll go and do it. But otherwise, yeah, let me know, I guess, if this video was helpful. It's a bit longer than I was originally planning on doing, but I guess, 34-ish minutes at the moment, but you're getting pretty much everything that I use in Rizom being covered, and I've tried to break everything down into an understandable sense, as well as, being able to show you guys, I guess, a direct use of every individual thing. So hopefully from this, you can go and UV super quickly and have a good understanding of Rizom's, I guess, toolset. But yeah. Hey guys, have a good one, and yeah, we'll catch you guys next time. See y'all.